On to some of the super chats. I do want to touch on Chelsea in the show as well. I know you've got to shoot because you're going to the game, Potsy. And we'll catch up with you soon, brother. Top man, me and LB hold the show anyway, so it's fine. We hold the show. Have a safe trip, mate, and we'll speak soon, brother. Take care.
Love, man. See you next time. In a bit.
This here says Slot never spent 800 million, did he? Terry Arteta has. Fair point to a degree.
I will say that Arteta took over a worse team than.
But this is. Are we suddenly saying that Slot hasn't got a team? I would argue that Liverpool have more world-class players in their team than Arteta does. And yes, Slot wasn't at the club when the club spent the money, but the squad's still there. So we know how good City's squad is. So the new manager that takes over after Pep, are we going to lower the expectations because he never spent any of that money? Are you going to do the LB and say he doesn't have to win because none of the money has been spent?
It's flawed logic. The energy that I'd have is the same energy that I'll have here. If, say, we get Alonso at Arsenal, and let's say Pep goes at the end of the season, right? Yeah. And Alonso comes in. For me, Arsenal should be favourites if they keep Arteta, because Arteta's a 5 years worth of experience in this league, finishing 90 points or whatever. And it's Alonso's first season in the Premier League.
I do get that point, and I understand where you come from. But if Alonso, again, we're just painting a theoretical. I mean, he's already an invincible title-winning manager. What if he wins 2 more trophies this year, including, let's just throw it out there. What if he wins the Champions League this year, comes in as a invincible league title and Champions League winning manager?
Yep. You
could make the argument if he is just a better head coach than Arteta. Your point around Arsenal fans saying there's no one better has been debunked. But I would say that him taking over City you have a better squad and a better run club with more money, and he's the better manager based on what he's achieved. I wouldn't say it's embarrassing for that squad, that team, that club, that manager to beat Arteta to a title.
In that case, I'd say, and I know you just accepted it, so I'm not disagreeing with you here. I'd then just say, well, your whole thesis on Arteta being here and there's no one better than him is completely debunked. So you've just wasted
100%.
5 years.
100%. I think you'd be spot on with that one, mate. Who's more likely to win the league this season, Dan, Slot, or Arteta? Well,
I'll take it. I'll take it, Johnny. I still think Arteta is more likely to win the season with Arsenal than Slot is with Liverpool. I'm not saying that Arsenal are dead. I still think Arsenal are favourites over Liverpool, in my opinion. We're just having the debate if this was to happen, but there's no doubt about it, man. Listen, Slot's impressing me. I will say, you know what I mean? If he's doing well, if you look on below the surface and look at the fixtures he has had kind fixtures. I mean, I think the only 2 tricky games he's had was United, who are trash anyway, and Chelsea, which was at home. So for me, I think Liverpool have got some tough fixtures coming up this month. So I think this is where I'm going to start looking at Slot and really judging him. But he's doing well. There's no doubt about it.
True, but if Ancelotti doesn't win the league, he is definitely being fired. Also, Barcelona's squad is pretty young and lack of experience is so embarrassing. I wouldn't call it, but listen, Ancelotti's under pressure right now because it isn't because Barca are doing well. It's because they're playing really poorly, according to Real Madrid fans. So if they finish the season trophyless and are playing poorly, I get why they would sack him. If they finish the season playing amazingly, win the Copa del Rey, win the Champions League, but Flick still wins the league, they might not sack him. You know, I think that you've got to weigh these things up. Miss Tori here, hope you're well, Vic. Says, been a while since I watched a live show here, just showing some love. Big up yourself, hope you're well. Arsenal versus Liverpool will be the most defensive in years. Yeah, both teams are very defensive this season. It's going to be...
If I was Slot, I don't know what you think, if I was Slot, I'd go for it. Yeah, they've got a couple of injuries. Saliba's out suspended. I know it's at Emirates, right? But you're already top of the league anyway. Most people are saying, wow, you're doing better than we all thought. What have you got to lose, man? Go to the Emirates and just fucking go for it, man. And listen, if you get beat, you get beat. But at least you've had a go. Do you know what I mean? I think Arsenal's going to be an interesting one because they're at home, which means they'll probably want to get on the front foot. But if he loses the game, they're not looking good. So I don't know how Arteta approaches it, but if I was Liverpool, I'd just go for it 100%.
They have got to win. That's Arsenal, I mean. I agree with you, Dan. We are not going to win the league too soon. We need 4 starting players to win the league, and the owners can't help us with that. That 11 is not enough to win the league, but that team is 100% good enough to beat Bournemouth. We lack discipline. We've become too defensive, in my opinion, is what Tony says here. I think it's fair. I think I get where you're coming from. Arsenal and me, by the way, disclaimer, me saying I get where you're coming from doesn't mean that I share the exact same opinion. Understanding somebody else's perspective is not a direct agreement or endorsement of that message. Just for my trolls. Just before you click me up. Do you think the players are still too emotional? That might have caused the red cards. Look, kicking the ball away, yes. The Trossard one. I think he was frustrated and he booted it. Saliba's wasn't emotion. It was ill discipline, stupidity. He just didn't need to pull the man down at that point. It's as simple as that. When Pep leaves, it levels the playing field. I think 80 to 85 points will be enough this year to win the league.
I think so. I don't think so, Nick.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I think it'll be high 80s. I think high 80s might be what it comes down to. Personally, on that one. I wanted to comment on your video on red cards. My initial thought was we should try to go and win the game, which fouled. Expecting us to try and win is okay. Also, Arsenal had the most red cards on that table. Yeah, that's what I've said before. I think the bigger conversation is around discipline. I know some of the red cards have not been red, but I think all of us can remember our players, LB, getting red cards they didn't.
How many of those red cards was Granit Xhaka though? Because he was just like a bit
grabbing people around the neck. There was a lot that were red cards. There were some that were definitely harsh. But even as a United fan, we've had some harsh red cards. I've seen Casemiro get a red card for like grabbing someone around the neck. But yet him and the guy were cuddling afterwards, and he was just trying to stop him from fighting. And the player, I think himself said in an interview, it wasn't really like that. But VAR looked at it in isolation and sent the geezer off. They were literally hugging a few seconds later. But there's been loads like it, my friend. Arsenal needs a better sporting director. I hear what you're saying there. My stalker here, Safe, says, Terry, I am a man. I told you, man, that Trump would be a better owner of Man United than Ineos. In your opinion, do you think Trump would... I mean, listen, Trump's running to be the president of America. It's a completely and utterly ridiculous point. I feel exactly the same as LB.
Bro, I can't lie.
Yeah, but if you met and saw Safe, it would all make sense. This guy used to turn up outside my office when I worked at Barclays and just wait outside for me. He's my stalker. He followed me home once. He knew where I lived. He's a very weird guy. Very weird guy. For how poor United have been, we are only 3 points behind Chelsea. And that's a great segue, Dean, into the end of the show in the Chelsea segment. What's your view, LB, on Chelsea being praised for their performances even though they lost? And when you look at the criticism that Man United have rightfully got, there is only a 3-point difference between the two football clubs. Is the praise for Chelsea, in your opinion, going a little bit overboard, or are the performances worth focusing on?
No, I think I'll be consistent with everything that I've said this year. I think they're a good team, but ultimately they didn't do enough in the transfer window. Their goalkeeper, by the way, is absolutely useless. I genuinely believe he's in the bottom 5 goalkeepers in the